Today, Tuesday, the 17th of December 2024, we have some hand-picked match predictions to share with you, which will be backed up by some stats and analytics to help you make your picks in this list to boost your winning by a greater percent. And to those of you who want to be having access to our hand-picked event, which we share to members only, as well as a list of top 10 and top 15 events, which of course we give only to members of level 2 pro plan, then of course you also want to make sure to join the level 2 pro plan to start to have access to all of these with huge odds to take your winning to the next level. So without wasting time, I will share with you all the games prediction we have for today. Looking at the first event, we look in the Europe Champions League women, a match between Real Madrid women against Chelsea women. Looking at the recent performance of the home team based on home games, you're going to see that they have a very good offensive power, scoring 3 to 4 goals per each event. That of the opponent, Chelsea, on the other hand, is a very good offensive team as well, scoring between 4, 3, and even 6 goals per event. And looking at the recent head-to-head which they have met this year twice, and you can see that 5 goals and 3 goals were scored. These are two offensive teams. And looking at the stance comparison in terms of recent event they've had for this particular game tournament, you're going to see that based on the home game for Real Madrid, they sit here on the second position. 2 games played, scoring 11 goals and conceding 0. They are very offensive. And Chelsea, on the other hand, based on the way you can see that they are also good, but the defense is not very tight. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, the first head-to-head, which they just recently had, this same here resulted to 5 goals, that 3-2. This time, both of the two sides are still good at offense, and the defense of the away is not that very tight. Since both sides want to impress in this particular tournament, of course, it's going to cost more shots on and off target, resulting to goals probability. So we are looking at the possibility of at least 1.5 goal in full time or 2 goals over, as well as the possibility of 2.5 goals to occur in this match in full time. These are our major pick for this particular event. Looking at the next, we still look in the Europe Champions League women. At this time, 20 women against Celtic women. For this particular event, of course, the performance of the home 20 proved to be very offensive based on recent event they have had in the Eredivisie, and of course, comparing to that of Celtic, on the other hand, also proved to be offensive, and they do concede a lot based on recent event they have had in the Champions League of women. Looking at the recent head-to-head which they have just met, you're going to see that 20 played at the way in lead by 2-0. This time, 20 is coming home. And looking at the stand comparison in terms of recent event they have had for this tournament based on stand, you're going to see that 20, which is the home, is very, very slack or weak in defense. Based on home game played, the defense is not very tight. Celtic also, on the other hand, based on the way game played, the defense as well is not very tight. And of course, looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in this event in full time. Looking at the most recent head-to-head, they have just had 20 lead by 2-0 when they play at the way. This time, 20 is coming home. And since Celtic, on the other hand, is not very tight at defense, the home team 20 is also the same. The defense is not tight. And since the last head-to-head resulted to a win against 20 against its opponent, of course, the opponent also want to take revenge of the last lose they had. As a result, they want to impress, resulting to goals probability. Since both sides are weak in defense, of course, we look at the probability of the fact that both sides want to take advantage of the weak defense of each. And therefore, we're looking at least 1.5 goal in full time for this particular event, as well as the possibility of 2 goals over. These are our 2 major picks for this event due to the weak defense of both sides. Looking at the next event we have here is in the England Professional Developmental League, Burnley U21 against Hull City. The performance of the home Burnley have proved to be very offensive based on recent event they have had, scoring 5 to 8 goals per each event. That of its opponent, on the other hand, of course, have also proved to also be a very offensive team, scoring 3-4 goals per each event. Looking at the recent head-to-head which they have had, they have met twice this same year, resulting to 6 and 7 goals per each meet, which they actually come to meet each other. Looking now at the stance comparison of these two in terms of recent event they have had based on the home and away game played, we are going to see that based on the form of the home by Burnley of course proved that they sit on a good place in the first position, leading this table Having played 5 events recently, they have had 5 wins, scoring up to 25 goals and conceding 3. This tells us that Burnley is a very offensive team, and looking at its opponent, the way which is Hull City, of course, they also prove to be of good offense, sitting also in the first lead of this table, scoring 13 goals for 5 events and having 7 conceded goals. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks to 3 picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, both of the two sides are very good in terms of offense. While the home team lead by home games played in terms of the stand table, the away also lead by away performance. And since both two defense are not that very tight, and the offense is very, very tough in terms of the gameplay they have recently had, of course, the last head-to-head also proved the possibility of more goals, since both sides having at least 2 to 3 goals per each match, resulting to 5 to 6 goals per each head-to-head they have made. Of course, this time both of the two sides still have a good offense, and looking at this, there will still be more shots on and off target, resulting due to the high impression rate and leading to the possibility of goals still to occur here. So we want to look at 1.5 goal in full time as well as 2.5 goal to occur in this match in full time. These are our 2 major pick for this particular event. Looking at the next, we look at England in the Premier League Cup, Charlton U21 against Birmingham U21. The home team have proved to be very offensive based on recent events they have had, scoring 3 to 6 goals per each event. The opponent, on the other hand, also proved to be very conceding in terms of recent events. Looking at the recent performance of these two in terms of stand, the leading performance of the home team and that of the away in terms of recent game they have had, we are going to see that Charlton, of course, have just had 1 event. This tournament is just starting, and looking at that of the away team as well, Birmingham, they have proved to have a more weak defense. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, both of the two sides want to impress. Since this League Cup is just starting, they want to impress to take advantage to see how they can have points. And since the resulting recent game they have played in the various league have proved that the home team is more offensive, and of course, leading to the fact that they also have a very good form, scoring huge number of goals. The away team also, on the other hand, want to impress. As a result, these offensive performance of the home will be brought in this League Cup, and therefore want to look at the possibility of goals, since we don't want to give any favorite because the away also might want to surprise and also impress. So look at goals probability as the major pick, 1.5 or 2.5 goal to occur in this match in full time. Looking at the next year, we look at Wales in the Wales Cumulus North, a match between Prestatyn against Denby. In this event, the Prestatyn, which is the home team, proved to be very, very conceding. The defensive lineup is very weak. That of the opponent, on the other hand, have a good offensive line, even though they do concede as well as much. Of course, looking at this particular area here, you're going to see the recent head-to-head which they have met. They just had game recently. You can see a total of 7 goals were scored, and resulting to the fact that both of the two sides want to impress. Since the last head-to-head resulted to 7 goals, of course, this time, since they are both offense and the defensive line is very weak, we still want to look at goals probability. Now looking at the form comparison Prestatyn based on home games, you're going to see that here they prove to have a very weak defensive lineup, and the offensive line is average, resulting to that of the away. Of course, as you can see as well here, the away will tell you that based on the stance of the away performance, you're going to see here the seat on the 7th position. And being on the 7th position, you're going to see that the offensive line is very good and the defensive line is not very tough. 15 goals scored for 5 events prove that the defense is weak and the offense is good. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, the defensive line of both sides are not tight, and especially that of the away that have a very good offense but a very weak defense. Of course, the home also want to take advantage of that weak defense. And since the away also have a very good offense, it also take advantage of that offensive power. And since both sides want to impress for this tournament, of course, we are looking at 1.5 and 2.5 goal to occur in this match in full time. Looking at the next, we still look in the Europe Champions League women, this time Lyon women, that is Lyon women against Wolfsburg women. Both of the two sides have proved to be very offensive based on recent events they have had, scoring 5 to 6 goals per each event. The opponent as well, on the other hand, is also a very offensive team, scoring 6 to 3 goals per each event. Looking at the recent game they just had, this same here, Lyon women played at the way, it lead by 2-0. This time, Lyon women is coming home, and since Wolfsburg had a lose in the last head-to-head, of course, they want to improve this time. And looking at the form comparison of these two in terms of the home and away performance, you're going to see that Lion Women is very offensive and defensive. 2 matches played, they have already had 7 goals, conceding 1. But that of Wolfsburg, on the other hand, also proved that they are also good at offense, even though the defensive line is also very strong. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks here in full time. For this particular event, both of the 2 sides are very good in terms of offense. And since the last head-to-head they meet recently, of course, Lyon lead against Wolfsburg by 2-0. Wolfsburg this time also want to take that revenge and try every possibility to see how they can also have goals in this event. And since the home also still have a very good offensive power, they also try every way to have goals, resulting to the probability of at least 1.5 goals to occur in this match in full time as one of the major picks, as well as the possibility of 2 goals over. These are our 2 major picks for this particular event. Looking at the next, we'll look at Netherlands in the Cup, the match between Maastricht against Feyenoord. In this event, of course, the performance of Maastricht, based on recent event they have had, proved that the defensive line is not very good and the offense is at least average. But that of Feyenoord, on the other hand, have a very high offensive power. And they've had games in the Champions League. That is, as you can see, in the Champions League against Sparta Prague, where they had a lead, and also against Man City, where they had a game 3-3. Of course, to prove that the offensive line of Feyenoord is very good, playing in the Champions League where they have major games with very strong team and had goals probability which was very high. Maastricht at home proved that the offensive lineup is just average and the defense is not that very tough, but Feyenoord on the other hand have a very high offensive power. Now, of course, looking at recent games being played by these for the various stand or league performance, you're going to see that Feyenoord proved to be very offensive here. And of course, looking at this lineup of Feyenoord, they are very offensive. Looking now at the head-to-head, they had head-to-head very far way back, so we cannot consider this. And looking at everything in place, we are looking at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, Feyenoord have proved to be very offensive. They've had games with very major game played or teams like Man City in the Champions League, where they have that is 3-3, having the possibility to score over that is at least 3 goals for that particular event. And another league they had in the Champions League against another opponent which is very strong and still managed to have more goals probability. This time, of course, they are coming to meet its opponent which has not had major game played like in the Champions League. Of course, Feyenoord have proved to be very offensive in terms of recent form. And bringing this form here, we are looking at Feyenoord to lead this game in full time as one of the major picks. And we also want to look at the possibility of 1.5 or 2.5 goals to occur in this match in full time. These are our major pick for this particular event. And to those of you who want to have our hand-picked events backed up by stats and analytics based on the upcoming events for the Champions League, the Premier League, Bundesliga, and other big league events like Europa League and that is Portugal Premier League and major gameplay league, you want to make sure that you become a member of the Level 2 Pro plan so that you have access to all of these game match prediction picks delivered directly to you, and as well as being backed up by stats with huge odds to enable you to make your own picks in the list to boost winning by a greater percent. To those of you who want to join, the link is below this video description. You want to make sure to go ahead, navigate, click and join to become a member and start to have benefit to all of these features to take your winning to the next height. Good luck and see you again in the next upload, and bye bye for now.